Alex Barutha here with Shannon McKeown and Ken. K-Train, Kreitz.
All aboard!
My first sleeper with an ADP outside of 120 is Bennedict Mathurin of the Indiana Pacers, who on Yahoo is at 127 and on ESPN is at 132. He is expected to start at shooting guard this season, which may have been what sort of led to the extension talks for Buddy Hield coming to a standstill. He'll probably come off the bench. Bruce Brown and Mathurin I expect to start. I think he has a really strong chance of being the team's second leading scorer, if not their leading scorer. When seeing 30 minutes, 20.4 points, 4.8 rebounds, 1.9 assists, and a ridiculous 7 free throw attempts. For anybody, that's amazing. For a rookie, that is stellar and exceptionally rare. He's weak in assists and steals. Halliburton really controls that team's offense. Bruce Brown will get some touches as well, but at pick 127, I am just happy to bet on the amazing scoring talent this late in the draft.
Fans, if you enjoy this video, please click the like and subscribe buttons below so you can get more fabulous fantasy basketball content from us. My late round sleeper number 1 is Mike Conley of your Minnesota Timberwolves. Yes, he's 36 years old, and yes, I'm repeating Shannon's points from our older video we did. But I keep doing drafts, and Conley, shockingly, is always available late. But his numbers with Minnesota over the last 35 games were stunning. 14 points, 5 assists, 1.2 steals, 2.4 made threes with percentages of 46, 86, and 42% over 31 minutes per contest. He improved after leaving Utah. He's a much better fit with the T-Wolves. They desperately need a floor general. He's arguably the only true point guard on this roster. Shake Milton is not a real threat in Minnesota. I dare you to find 5 dimes per game in picks 130 plus. Mike Conley, my first late round sleeper.
My first sleeper, my first late round dart, Talen Horton-Tucker, the Utah Jazz. He has started both the first 2 preseason games in the backcourt alongside Colin Sexton. THT, I love what he did last year towards the end of the season. He averaged in his final 19 appearances last season, he started all 19 of those games, and he averaged 18 points, 5.1 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.3 three-pointers, 43% from the floor, 76.5% from the free throw line in 29 minutes per game. As long as THT's starting and he's playing 28 to 30 minutes per game, I think there's solid fantasy value here.
My second late round dart here is Naz Reid from the Minnesota Timberwolves. ADP of 142 on Yahoo, 136 on ESPN. Per minute last year was the 30th best fantasy player in 8 category leagues. Did an excellent job filling in for Karl Anthony Towns, who was injured most of the season. If you draft Reid, I would not expect him to play more than 24 minutes per game when both of the starters are healthy in front of him. This is like the per minute upside you're looking for late in a draft at pick 140. With your final pick. And even if Cat and Gobert are healthy, 4-game weeks, you can probably stream Reid in as a starter. In his 11 starts last year, 16.5 points, 7 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and 2.6 stocks in 26 minutes a game. So with the per minute upside, what he proved last year, I'm very happy to give him with my final pick.
You have a Naz Reid problem.
Who are you taking to the prom?
Oh, an even quicker player. Alexander, also known as Sasha Vezenkov, your 28-year-old rookie for the Sacramento Kings. He's got an ADP of 140 on ESPN, 155 on CBS. Vezenkov was last year's EuroLeague MVP. Over 8 years in the EuroLeague, he's a career 40% three-point shooter. And he also hits 63% of his shots inside the arc. That's over 8 years. This is not a flash in the pan. Vezenkov has a quick trigger with surprising 1 steals a game last year in EuroLeague. I say surprising because, honestly, he's probably a better fantasy player than a real-life player. He's a gunner. He's just going to shoot a lot. Harrison Barnes is 31 years old, coming off an 82-game season, frankly due for an injury. Sorry, Harrison. And more importantly, though, Sacramento has 0 front court depth outside of Vezenkov. They made very few other moves in the offseason. I mean, for goodness sakes, Alex Len is still on this Kings roster. I think Vezenkov's going to get a ton of minutes off the bench, pure shooter, and their fast-paced Kings team, he's going to get a lot of points.
I'm going with Jalen Suggs, who's entering his third year with the Orlando Magic. Suggs has an ADP of 140 on ESPN, 142 on Yahoo. Any of these guys who are in that 140, 142 range, they're basically like last round picks in a lot of 10 or 12 team leagues on ESPN or Yahoo. Most ESPN or Yahoo leagues don't go deeper than that. But I love the pedigree. First of all, he's obviously a great player in college, number 5 overall pick by the Magic in 2021. Finally, we no longer have to worry about Gary Harris getting starts for the Orlando Magic. So if Suggs can play 30 minutes, I think there's upside. I think there's upside for him to really expand his game beyond the arc, hit more three-pointers. But the key to Suggs is I love his defensive upside from the guard position. He could rack up a ton of steals. He's averaging 1.3 steals in his career right now in under 26 minutes per game. And again, he is one of the better shot blockers for a guard.
We're going to Washington for my third late round sleeper, Deni Avdija, who has a ADP of 148 on Yahoo and 140 on ESPN. I will admit, I'm not the biggest Avdija optimist, but it's pretty hard for me to pass up on an ADP of 148, given that he is in the best situation of his career so far. His fantasy value, to his credit, it's gone up every single year of his career. 170 was his rank in 8 cap per game value last year, while playing 27 minutes a game. But he's also sharing some usage with Beal and Porzingis. Avdija's coming off the bench. Beal's usage is going to get replaced by Jordan Poole, who is going to probably try to lead the NBA in scoring. But that absence of Porzingis in the front court, a great opportunity for Avdija to slide in as a starter and find 30 minutes per game consistently. He played 30 minutes per game, or he played 30 minutes in 29 games last year, averaged 14 points, 8.5 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and 1.7 stocks. And those stocks are not a fluke. He's a fantastic real-life defender. At 148, I'm pretty happy to invest in Avdija.
I'm banging the drum again for Los Angeles Clipper Kenyon Martin. We know Kawhi and Paul George will miss a ton of games. This roster is ancient. Westbrook, Nick Batum, and Marcus Morris are all 34 years old. Robert Covington is 32. Marcus Morris is already battling a groin injury, plus they tried to trade him and he's disgruntled. Eventually, Martin will pass Batum and Morris and be the starting power forward on this Clippers team. Great stats when he got playing time with Houston. This team is desperate for some youth and energy. They really ought to give Martin a ton of minutes. And his ADP is at 192. So for deeper leagues, he is available. Love him as a very late flyer.
Cam Thomas for the Brooklyn Nets, ADP of 139 on ESPN, 141 on Yahoo. Again, just like my previous 2 picks, this is the guy who has started the first 2 preseason games. He averaged, it's only 4 starts. It's a small sample size. The games were a mess. There were a lot of players sitting, but he averaged 39 points per game in 4 starts last season, 4.3 3-pointers in those 4 contests. I think there's a legit chance, we'll call it 20% chance, that if Cam Thomas plays heavy minutes, talking over 30 minutes per game, and remains in the starting lineup for the Nets, that he could be this team's leading scorer. Odds-on favorite, Mikal Bridges, of course. Yeah. Of course. But I also worry, like Cam Thomas, 2 for 1. I like him as a late-round dart. The scoring, the three-point shooting, that'll be there. There's not going to be much on the defensive side. Percentages have actually been okay for him. But if he's out there, he's going to chuck. It put Thomas on my radar and rankings much higher, seeing him start 2 consecutive games.
All right, well, that does it for our late-round flyer picks, or sleepers, if you will. I want to remind listeners of our audio podcast, we will return to our longer format of news, waiver wire, DFS advice, and then end of episode shenanigans when the regular season starts. Frankly, right, Alex? There's not a ton of news coming out preseason. If there were, frankly, we'd be starting these episodes with news. And this 3-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line.